Welcome aboard! We will be your guides during this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for us because we love the movies. It's showtime! Ready when you are, CB!
Action!
Welcome to Monoreel Radio episode number 366. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are here this week to kick off March Madness in a very Disney-fied sort of way with Air Bud. We wanted to do a basketball month, and this is one of those things where you're looking at it and you're like, man, 366 episodes in, how have you not gotten to Air Bud yet? And I feel like I had a lot to do with that because I do have a little history with this movie, but before we get into that, I'm wondering what your history is with this film.
No, I'm wondering what yours is. I didn't know there was a history with this film. I had never seen it. I remember the, pardon the pun, hoopla when this movie came out.
Yeah.
You know, it followed a slew of 90s movies in which a kid befriends an animal. I mean, Free Willy, Andre,
Dunstan checks
countless
in. Yep.
dolphin movies. I mean, you name it, they did it, which is so ironic because they always tell you not to work with animals or children. It's the most difficult to deal with on a set because, you know, obviously for as well trained as an animal can be, they can be a bit unpredictable. And with kids, that's not a knock at kid actors. It has nothing to do with behavior and everything to do with strict rules being in place for having to go to school while they're on set. So from a production standpoint, it is a bit of a logistical nightmare. So it still baffles me every single time you consider how many of these movies live out there in the world and how many sequels they spawned. We will just be focusing on Air Bud because it is the basketball movie. Every other sequel is like a different sport. I can see where this was a slippery slope.
Yeah, so here's my history with the movie. We didn't see it in movie theaters, and this was one of those rare exceptions where my grandmother and my mother, I think, had gone to Price Club, now it's called Costco, saw a VHS tape, said it's a Disney movie about a dog that plays a sport. The kids'll love it. So they buy the VHS sight unseen. I was 11 when this movie came out. So I think by the time we got the VHS, I was 12. Because it had been out for a little while, right? So my brother would have been 10. So we're in the target demographic for this movie. Now, I'm going to bury this lead here. Sorry to bring the mood down. The dog obviously lives through the film. However, the animal actor that played Air Bud passed away a year after the movie came out. And I remember...
Why would you do this?
Because this is important.
Why would you tell me this?
Well, first off, this movie's almost 30 years old, so you can't imagine the dog is still around at this
I know,
point.
but I didn't want to imagine any part of that.
But that's why this is an important part of the story.
Okay.
I remember when Buddy, and that was the animal actor's name, Buddy. I remember when Buddy passed away because it was sort of a big deal. Because what a lot of people don't know, if you weren't of our age, Buddy was sort of a celebrity before this movie had come out. This movie was kind of written for him. He had been on America's Funniest Home Videos. He had done stupid animal tricks on the David Letterman show. Like, people knew who this dog was. So I remember thinking, oh, wow, the movie just came out and the dog died. And, I mean, he was 9 years old and he had been very sick and, after the production of this film. So I think sitting and watching it for the first time, knowing that, it's like when John Candy died and I went to go watch the first movie that they released posthumously after he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much it just made me uncomfortable to watch it. The way people felt when they watched Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, right? As a kid, that was sort of what it was like for me watching Air Bud, knowing that, unfortunately, Buddy had passed away. So there was that stacked against it. The other thing is, for as much as this is a part, this film is really a factor and a part of its own time, meaning that, 90s and whoa, an animal that can do something. Don't be fooled. We're going to get into the plot in just a moment here. The subject material is very heavy at times. So, which is not uncommon for movies like this. Free Willy was sort of a heavy film. When you look at a lot of these movies that came out, Homeward Bound, it's an adventure film, but it's still sort of heavy. Radio Flyer, not having to do with an animal, but has to do on surface level. Oh, it's a kid who makes an airplane out of a wagon. It's very heavy subject material, and that's kind of a lot of these movies in the 90s were doing this. And so all of those things were sort of stacked against this, and I just remember this was one, had the VHS, watched it once. Within a year, I sort of outgrew the target demographic and donated it to the library.
Without giving too much away, that's what I will say about the idea that I came in with. I had no idea that it was going to be that heavy. I mean, yes, Free Willy. I love Free Willy. I watch that all the time. But you kind of know what you're getting. This, I saw the dog was playing basketball. I'm thinking we're capitalizing on Mighty Ducks success at this point.
Yeah.
And it's going to be dog joins the team of underdogs. Again, no pun intended.
Right.
And leads them to victory. And I thought it was going to be a story of the whole team moving up the ranks. I was really not expecting it to be a buddy drama the way that it was. Again, no pun intended.
Well, has this movie aged well? Is it a product of its time? And does this film even know what it wants to be? That, on top of many other things, is what we are here to discuss today.
This episode is sponsored by Where in the Park. Our friends at Where in the Park make seek and find card games designed to play in the theme parks and turn your day into an interactive adventure. Game packs come with a deck of cards, each with an image on it that is hidden somewhere in the theming of the park, helping you to discover details you've probably walked past 100 times. Where in the Park game packs will spark curiosity, encourage connection, and make every visit to the parks even more memorable. Visit monoreelradio.com and click on our affiliate link to purchase your game packs at a discount.
Norm Snively is a struggling clown and abusive owner of Buddy the dog. After a disastrous performance at a birthday party, Norm is determined to bring Buddy to the pound. However, Buddy's pet carrier falls from the back of his truck. Buddy is set free after the carrier is tapped by a car driven by the Fram family as they move to a new town following the death of the family's father. Josh, the eldest child, loves basketball but is struggling the most following his father's death. One day, Josh finds an abandoned church and an old basketball court. He hears an animal rustling in the brush and finds a piece of Buddy's costume, his clown costume. The next day, he goes to the basketball tryouts at school, but he doesn't actually try out. Instead, he is offered a spot as the team's manager. He goes back to the church where he plays basketball, and we see he can actually play pretty well, and he meets Buddy. He feeds him pudding, but Buddy runs off into the brush again because he doesn't trust people. The following day, Josh cleans up the basketball court and lures Buddy out again. This time, he and Buddy play basketball, and Buddy allows him to take his tattered costume off. Josh takes him home and bathes him, but his mother won't allow Josh to keep the dog, so they post flyers around the town about the dog being found, but Buddy tears them down as he does not want to be returned to Norm. Josh convinces his mom to allow them to keep Buddy for 2.5 weeks so that he doesn't have to spend Christmas at the pound. Buddy spends his time sneaking into the family home, stealing newspapers, and bonding with Josh. Josh, meanwhile, observes how the school's handyman Art watches basketball practice from afar and seems to take an interest in him. One day, Art asks Josh why he puts himself through the hustle and the bullying of being the team's manager, and Josh tells him that it's because he likes basketball, and he recognizes him as former New York Knick Art Cheney, which initially he denies. However, Josh watches him play basketball privately, and he knows that it's in fact him. For Christmas, Josh's mom surprises him by letting him keep Buddy. After Christmas break, Coach sends out private invitations to try out for 2 recently opened slots on the basketball team, and Josh receives one in his locker. He debates what to do, And at his basketball court at the church, he sees that Buddy has the ability to actually shoot baskets, much to his shock, and he says, let's just keep this a secret. When Josh arrives at the tryout, the coach tells him that he was not supposed to be invited, but he allows him to try out anyway, because in fact it was Art that had placed the invitation in the locker. He sees how good Josh is, and he adds him to the roster where he befriends a boy named Tom. When Buddy finds that Josh did not return home, he goes to the school to find him. Buddy arrives at the game to play with Josh, and chaos ensues, but everyone is amazed when Buddy hits a shot. After the game, their principal tells the family that the school would like Buddy to be the new mascot for the team. Meanwhile, Buddy runs back to the gym and the rest follow, where they see that the coach is taunting and abusing Tom after having a poor game leading to his dismissal. Josh suggests that Art becomes the new coach, and during their first practice, Art clashes with Larry, the team's star player. Larry's father eventually pulls his son from the team when Art refuses to let Larry play selfishly, because he's trying to promote a team game. Josh, however, plays selfishly to try and win the respect of his teammates, costing his team that first game with Art. He learns that he can't play for himself and that he must play for the team, and the Timberwolves, as they are called, flourish, as does Air Bud, who gains notoriety and the attention of Norm, who sees that he has the ability to cash in on the dog when he sees them on the local news. Well, he arrives at the Fram home with his ownership papers, and he takes Buddy away, breaking the family's heart. Josh goes to Norm's house to see that Buddy is chained outside in the mud, and he helps break him out. They are chased by Norm and escape via a water taxi to an undeveloped side of town. It's like an island. Josh, looking to protect Buddy from Norm, decides to set Buddy free on this undeveloped plot of land / island in the hopes that someone else can find him and protect him, because he now regrets sharing Buddy with the world, because had he not done that, he never would have been on television and Norm would never have found him. Buddy refuses to leave him, so Josh pretends to play with him, takes their basketball, and throws it away. As Buddy chases it, Josh leaves and abandons Buddy on the water taxi. At the championship game, the team, particularly Josh, struggle against their old teammate Larry, who has since moved into Spokane. After fouls and injuries, they see that they only have 4 players left. However, Buddy arrives at the gym to reunite with Josh, and with there being no rule against a dog playing basketball, and seeing as Buddy had already practiced with the team because he was the mascot, they allow him to sub in and enter as the 5th player. With Air Bud in the game, the Timberwolves storm back, and with the season on the line, Josh hits a game-winning 3-pointer. The celebration, however, is short-lived when Norm arrives, but his papers have been destroyed. So he decides he's going to take the family to court. At the hearing, the judge turns out to be a fan of Art Cheney and listens to Cheney's suggestion about letting man's best friend pick who he goes with. Outside, Buddy initially goes to Norm. However, it is strictly to destroy the newspaper that Norm has rolled up in his hand, because that's what he used to hit Buddy with. He destroys the paper, he goes over, he picks Josh, and the family lives happily ever after, as the judge rules that Buddy is now property of the Fram family.
So I don't know if it's because we've been so dialed into the new releases. It was just so refreshing to see the classic Castle intro. It just, for whatever reason, hit me right in the feels this week. As if I don't regularly rewatch Little Mermaid and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and see it all of the time.
No, but I think for you, having not seen this before, you're watching a new Disney movie, and it's a callback to our childhood.
That's exactly what it is. Is that, I got to experience the whole thing for the first time.
Let's talk about, from the onset, though, the tone for this film is not consistent. You see the clown show up, Norm.
Happy Scrappy.
Clown and the Hound. I love that, by the way.
Cheesy as it is,
it
works.
Sense.
It does.
It works.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't have expected anything else.
there's a certain brilliance about this, because you see that he doesn't have Buddy in the cab of the truck. Buddy is in the bed of the truck in a pet carrier. And he calls him Mutt, you flea-bitten mongrel, all of like the really cliched things that bad people call dogs. But what's amazing is, and I want to get this out of the way right off the rip, Michael Jeter is so underappreciated for this role. Michael Jeter was unfortunately died way before his time.
He was only 50.
He was 50.
I think. Yeah.
It was very sudden. Epileptic seizure. Very, very sad. And I remember when he died. And the funny thing is, I didn't think, oh, Green Mile. I thought Air Bud, a movie I had only seen once. So this movie really stuck with me because I was 17 when Michael Jeter died, okay? He was a dramatic actor. He was an actor of the stage primarily, accomplished. And what they do really well here is you think, oh, here we go. This is just zany, whatever, abusive owner. But the minute he gets into that clown role in the birthday party, you buy him. Mm-hmm. You buy him as being just this silly clown who's got this adorable dog. And there's like this underlying darkness that exists that a less accomplished actor would pull off. And the thing, like as a kid, you don't recognize how good the performance is, but as an adult, you go, man, Michael Jeter was so good.
I locked in on that right away, how much character development they're doing in such little screen time, which is truly remarkable because he's under all of that makeup, which, by the way, it's so brilliant. It's so subtle. You have a makeup team that's going to be applying that, right? But it still looks like he did it himself. It's still very much believable that this guy who doesn't care to even do this job, doesn't like children, is still going to put himself together enough and go quite literally phone in the performance because he has to. But to your point, you can tell there is just that underlying darkness about him. And I think a lesser actor would have not elevated these scenes so much, because you do have it in the dialogue exactly as you said. He's calling him Mutt. He's, waving the newspaper at, if you don't perform, you're going to get the paper. So it's enough for kids to pick up on, but the adults are definitely latching on to this man is just angry at the world. He hates his job, he hates his life, and he's taking it out on everything around him. And, yes, he is being very cruel to the dog, and that comes through, but it's not in a way where it's just like, oh, he's misplacing his anger. He hates his life, so he's taking it out on the dog. No, he's just a bad guy. But he's also, I think he layers the character because you do sort of see how he got here. Like, yeah. It's not even like he's like dying to be a performer and this is where he ended up. He's clearly like self-taught because he can't juggle. He can't even hula hoop. He's just bad at being a clown. So it's not even like he's upset that like this big career as an actor that he wanted didn't pan out. He is just, it's not even down on his luck. He's just mad at the world because of his situation, and he's not owning any of it.
Yeah, honestly, and people are going to think I'm really stretching it here. However, and I'm not saying this was the influence for the character, it kind of reminds me of Joaquin Phoenix in Joker. The same thing. You're just you're a little bit of a different situation because Joaquin Phoenix's character in that movie is dealing with a mental health issue. He's not inherently a bad person. He's just somebody that's not of sound mind and eventually snaps. But the whole notion that you're not truly happy in what you're doing, you're not good at what you do, and just carrying that weight and that sadness, had you had, to your point, a less accomplished actor, it would have just been a clown that trips and falls all over his shoes, and it would have just been cringe comedy. He's a bad guy, much like Joker is, right? But in spite of the fact that they're inherently a bad person, there's a part of you that still sort of feels bad for them because you know that it took a long time for them to get to this point.
With the Joker, yes, because the world was also very unkind to Arthur.
Yeah.
But in this case, this is all self-imposed. You can get yourself out of the situation if you work a little harder for it. He doesn't want to, and just it takes it out on Buddy,
Right.
who doesn't even have a name at this point.
Right.
So you mentioned some inconsistencies, and there are quite a few, I think, with story that we're going to get into, but there are also a few that stand out to me right away just in the cinematography and production design. I can imagine that this was a challenge to shoot because they're in British Columbia. They do so many shots during magic hour, golden hour. You know, they're trying to get that glow of the sun in the early morning and in the afternoon. So you can see the difference in lighting. I think also just by virtue of where you're shooting, you're going to get a lot of cloudy days too. So like if you're shooting on multiple days and the sun is out, you know, it was clearly very hard to cut against each other and make this match. But what is so jarring to me, and this is super nitpicky, but it kind of took me out of it right away. When he rolls up to the house, there's these clusters of balloons. First of all, the pink pastels and yellows, it looks like it's Easter at the house, not a birthday party. Like you'd be expecting more like brightly colored, the reds, the greens,
Yeah.
the blues. And the way that they're all bunched together so neatly, I was just like, clearly an art department did this. And it's just kind of ironic that the makeup is so believable that the character put it on, but then you have something like this where it's like, I don't believe mom just put these balloons out this morning for her child's birthday. But we don't even know who the child is.
Well, here's the other thing. We're being told it's Christmas. Nobody has any Christmas decorations out, and it looks like the leaves have freshly fallen. This looks more like Halloween than it does Christmas. So to your point, yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies with the set. Is it a beautifully shot film?
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's really, really well done. But yes, those are a lot of inconsistencies, which I have a theory on that, but I want to kind of get to that theory in just a moment.
I mean, you're not going to be shooting this in December when there's actually going to be snow on the ground. So like that much I can give a pass is that you're telling us, or it's clearly reading fall, but they timestamp it with Christmas just so you can have that moment of Christmas morning. Like I get it. I see exactly what you're trying to do here.
But we get out of the Christmas party, or out of the birthday, out of the birthday party, and it's mayhem. It's whoa, the cake went everywhere, which is what you expect this movie's going to be.
Oh, as soon as you see that there's a clown in this movie, you know there's going to be some sort of pie, cake, absolutely.
So, you know, Norm decides, that's it, I'm done, dog's going to the pound. He doesn't close the back of the pickup truck. He's on his way to the pound, and the most expected thing happens, and the pet carrier slides out of the back of the truck. Doesn't tumble out, it slides out of the back of the truck.
It's still too much for me.
So, you see the moving truck pass by. It doesn't hit the pet carrier. And like several seconds later, with enough time to spare, the Fram family SUV taps on the pet carrier. Doesn't hit it, it taps it. Enough where it tips it over, the door opens, Buddy comes out, and you can see Mom is struggling. She's got the toddler crying in the back seat. She's trying to tend to the toddler, so you can assume that's why she wasn't paying attention. She's like, where did this box come from? But it's very clear it's a pet carrier. She doesn't get out to look, and Josh sees Buddy on the side of the road in his clown costume, and they just continue on. I wanted to bring this up specifically because, as you said, this whole thing was too much, and I'm sure that it upset you to see it. This is where I want to pull the pin out of the inconsistencies with sort of the setting and the time, etc., and so forth. Disney distributed this film, but Disney didn't shoot this movie.
It was independent, I believe.
And it had been shopped around. And I can imagine in 1997, it's Michael Eisner Disney. Somebody comes to him and says, I got something. A dog who plays basket. Yep, print it. No. We don't have to print it. It's already been shot. Send the blank check. Like, that's, I am Macintosh. Send the blank check. Like, I can almost see Michael Eisner purchasing this film sight unseen. We don't have to shoot it. We don't have to make it. It's in the can, and it's about a dog that plays basketball, and we've got a dead parent. Well, this is a Disney movie right here.
I couldn't have wrote it better myself.
However, had this been a film that Disney made and didn't just distribute, two things I called to attention. Number one, I think a lot of those inconsistencies that we're seeing, I think that would have been cleaned up. I think that's where you see where it's not as polished per se as it would have been under Disney. And all that would have happened is the carrier would have fallen out of the back of the truck, the door would have popped open, and the family would have driven past. You wouldn't have seen the carrier struck by a vehicle had this been a traditional Disney film.
I agree with you for the most part. I am going to put a pin in that, though,
Okay.
because I actually think Disney may have chopped this up a bit, and that's what's contributing to the inconsistencies. But I will pull that pin out very shortly. Yeah, this was a lot to watch because for as much as you are rooting for Buddy to get away from the bad man and you're rooting for him not to go to the pound, he's in peril because he's trapped in this carrier.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see a stray dog on the side of the road, on the side of a busy road. It's so dangerous, but at least there's a chance for the dog to run away. He's a sitting duck right now.
Right.
Obviously they're not going to show anything horrible happen, but I was kind of surprised that the method in which they opted to free him wasn't that he figured out how to use his snoot to open the door. And I've seen that happen. It can absolutely happen. Yeah. Looking at you, Walt. I'm just surprised that the plot device was the car hitting the carrier and knocking it over to free him. Like, there were a billion other ways that you could have done this, and
Correct.
I'm surprised that this is the one that we rolled with. But after that, it's heartbreaking to see Buddy, and he's cute. He looks so adorable in his little clown costume, but so pathetic on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And Josh says nothing. I thought this was the moment of, hey, Mom, there's a dog there. And then the immediate dismissal of, we're in the middle of a move. We can't keep him. But they do set up the rest of it very quickly. Mom's got a new job. They're returning to the town that she fondly remembered from her childhood and visiting her grandparents. Then we see Josh start to unpack the box and we establish the dead parent. Why do you have the framed article?
Yes. So here's the thing. I could understand if you kept the article, if you had it things of your father's and you kept it, because we need to know what happened. He was a test pilot that crashed. Okay, that's fine. But why did you put it in a frame like memorabilia?
You have that hanging on a wall somewhere in your old house?
Apparently.
I mean, keep it safe and protected.
Scrapbook
of course,
or something, right?
But the picture of you and your dad playing basketball that you have great.
Yeah.
Great.
That's enough.
We could have just taken the newspaper out of the box.
Right. It could have been one of... listen, sometimes we were all kids, right? Sometimes you hang on to weird stuff. That could have been something where he was hiding the article and just keeping it away from his mother. That was a thing that he had hidden, and she finds that later, and that becomes a thing. No, it's framed... It's off-putting, and it's bizarre. And I remember watching this as a kid going, that's weird.
Yeah. It is. So then we get the, first day at a new school. Josh is trying to fit in. We learn he likes basketball, which we also learned from the picture with the dad, but he's not quite ready to go out for the team yet. And then I'm ready to pull my pin out now, if that's okay
yes.
with you. He stumbles across a church, and there's a basketball court in the back of the church, which, all right, I've personally never seen a church with a basketball court in the back. I've
My church had one, actually.
Really?
We had a gymnasium, and there was a basketball court because our church used to run a basketball league.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I figured like some sort of municipal area, or like, you know, they have a place where like they host barbecues or picnics or whatever. I'll buy that there's like a paved area outside, but you know, the hoops and stuff just felt a little contrived. But okay, if you say so.
My church had one, so I can confirm God's a basketball fan.
So this is where it surprised me the most to learn that this was shot and in the can already before Disney decided to distribute it. Because to me, you know, we've talked about all of these 90s kid-animal friendship movies. This is where it feels the most like a hodgepodge of we were trying to be so many other things that were popular at the time. This to me screamed Field of Dreams, Angels in the Outfield. Now, granted, both of those are baseball movies. Had I not known that there was going to be a dog playing basketball, and had I not just seen the dog escape his abusive owner, I would have thought for sure Ghost of Dad was coming out onto that court. So this is where tonally it feels like an entirely different movie, and that Disney may have cut some things out, because why do we keep going back to the church? The church was also like, it felt very heavy handed. It felt like that was going to play more of like a symbolic role of Josh like reconnecting with his dad and returning to the thing that he loves despite his grief. But all of that becomes channeled through Arthur's character. So this just felt like this court could have been anywhere. Like, I thought church was going to play a much larger role in this movie, but it doesn't seem like there's any more of a reason for it than you have like this picturesque setting of the lake and the mountains behind it.
I don't agree with that, and I'll tell you why. Because I think a big part of what this film is rooted in is the feeling of abandonment. You have Josh, who feels abandoned because he's lost his father, and while his mother is there, she's pulled him out of his town into a place he doesn't want to be in, surrounded by people he doesn't want to be around. You've got Buddy, who is being abandoned by his owner, and, you know, here he comes and finds this abandoned place. So, and him fixing up the basketball court is symbolic of just fixing things that are abandoned. So I don't necessarily agree with that. And I think that because this movie tonally doesn't really know what the hell it is, because it just doesn't, and I'm not saying that it's a bad film, it doesn't know what it is. It's both heavy in its subject matter, it's both thought-provoking, and then also zany and 90s.
No, I mean, you are 1,000% right with the overall theme of abandonment, because Arthur, you know, lends to that theme as well, and how he's sort of given up on it, and he finds this place like that. That's, you're absolutely right. This is about finding your place. So for this to be the meet cute for Buddy and Josh, that's totally fine. It's just, you hit it right on the head when you talked about the cleanup. I hadn't considered that as far as lending to the idea of sometimes you just need a little TLC. I was thinking more in terms of the other movies of this ilk where it's a team bonding thing and you're going to clean this up and earn the right to play here.
Like that when they fixed the big green.
Exactly. So that's kind of where my head was, but when you think about it in these terms, it does make a lot more sense. So, all right. I'll give you that. I think that's it. I think I'm just in my 90s head a little bit too much about the comp films.
Well, also because the meet cute, so to speak, it feels and looks exactly like E.T. So, I mean, that's a big thing too. Let's move on though to the tryout for the basketball team. This is such a good fake out. where you think it's going to be the coach, the first coach that we see, where you think it's him that's going to be the positive influence on Josh's life, because he's militant, he's got his starters, he's got spots to fill. Josh shows up but doesn't actually play. He watches the other boys are picking on Josh because of the basketball that he brought, because it wasn't, a Spalding or a Wilson,
No, it's one with the air severely deflated so the dog can use it without getting hurt.
But he gives him a chance. Be our manager. Show up at practice. You think this is going to be the bridge because he sees something in him. It's a great fake out. It's really well done.
It is, as it pertains to this coach. But what I don't love is that he's getting picked on just by the one kid, Larry, who is your stereotypical bully. And not just in the sense of your stereotypical kid bully. This was a 90s trope. He is just picking on the new kid. Which never makes any sense to me in these sports movies, because if it's somebody that's on your team, yeah, there are people that are mean, there are people that are going to put you down, but part of the lesson of playing sports is that you have to put all of that aside when you're on the court, when you're on the ice, when you're on the diamond, and, bond as a team. But I digress. Larry picks on him, and then Josh just sits there and doesn't do anything. He doesn't even try. He doesn't pick up a ball. Why not have him try out and then get picked on? And then the coach, maybe that's not going to be a good fit for you, but that's the olive branch. You can still be a part of this team if you want to, but you don't have to deal with the mean kid. It just doesn't make sense that, and I mean, maybe that's part of Josh still grieving that it was so easy for him to turn his back. But wouldn't you fear being bullied more for not even trying? And you're literally just sitting there. He doesn't even leave. He waits till everybody else leaves just so the coach can deliver this line. It just doesn't make sense. There were a couple different ways we could have got in and out of this scene and arrived at the same place.
Well, where we arrive after that is back at the church, where we have this bonding scene between Buddy and Josh. It's a nice bonding scene with the vanilla pudding, and they're playing together. And then Josh gets him home, and you get the dirty dog in the bathtub with Splish Splash is playing, and it's just a mess all over the place. And you're like, oh, here comes the zany, 90s film. And this is just where you get confused as to what the tone of this movie is actually going to be. Because then the dog comes downstairs, he makes a mess, Mom says we're not keeping him. Everything you expect... Everything you expected this movie to be happens in these 2 minutes.
This is exactly what I was expecting of this film going in, except I thought it was going to be more hijinks with the team. And, the kids want to adopt him as a mascot, and all the adults are saying no because he's crazy, and that's where, kudos for subverting expectations. But yeah, that doesn't mean that it's consistent tonally. What I have a bigger issue with in this film, or in the scene rather, clearly Buddy is too heavy to lift into the tub. And part of it is going to be he loves the ball so much he's going to go wherever the ball goes. And that also sets up
what
something
happens
that happens later. I don't even want to touch that. But they show... It takes me right out of it, because I'm just saying they show the actor's struggle trying to lift this dog, and he lifts the hind legs. He kind of twists him in a really uncomfortable position. I'm surprised that so much tugging on this dog was allowed to fly. And that's where I get kind of bent out of shape with things like this, because the dogs are so well trained. They're not going to bark and yelp if they're in pain, but I can't believe they even left this in the cut of the film because the dog looks so uncomfortable. And then in the tub, there's soap and shampoo in his eyes. And then Josh sprays him with his mom's perfume. And I would really love to believe that I mean, obviously they didn't use real perfume that's going to sting the dog. It's water or something. But like, because it's the 90s and we often didn't pay attention to things like that, like you're literally squirting the dog in the eye. I fear for the dog's well-being. And now to know, thank you, Sean, that this was the end of the dog's life. And this is how he spent his final year, being abused in the making of this film.
Well, you realize the dog had body doubles. It's not him in every scene.
You can't. Yeah, no, you can't. It's the same thing as with really young kid, like the Olsen twins in Full House. You had twins playing one character so that when one is tired, you put the other one in. Yeah, no, I know that there were several dogs. But I think to that point, that's why this scene is so hard to watch, because one of them is clearly more golden and lighter.
Yeah.
This one...
He's a darker fur. He's a darker coat.
That looks very familiar.
So
it's like watching my precious child be abused, and it's very hard. Also, though, it is kind of funny. I think what reminds me the most about Walty is like, this is what bath time looks like.
Yes.
At least for me.
Yes.
It's a struggle. He will be a lot better behaved for you in the tub.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Getting introduced to Art Chaney. So Art has been in the background the whole time. They planted him there, and you just think he's a background character. But the fact that... Josh sort of recognizes who he is, I think that certainly says a lot about this character. This movie has done a fairly good job, while tonally inconsistent. This movie is a master of sleight of hand. They show you one thing while doing something completely different in plain sight.
Yes. I really love that he played for the Knicks, because during the mid-90s, like, you couldn't touch them. They were the team. So I love, for a film that was taking place on the West Coast, they didn't just default to the Lakers.
Yeah, or the Supersonics.
Yeah. No, but I love that we get this. It does sort of beg the question, like, how do you end up here? And there's so many parallels. What's really funny, Disney has cast this actor so many times. He was in Oz the Great and Powerful. We really liked his character in that. But this is like straight copy and paste of Hudsucker Proxy, where you have the maintenance character that's sort of all-knowing, that gives the main character the tools that they need. But for a film like this is, even though it is a bit repetitive, it's just a great introduction of the mentor figure.
Yeah.
Although I don't understand why Josh is doing laundry.
He's the team manager, so he's washing the uniforms.
They don't take them home and wash them?
Some schools don't.
Really?
Yeah, some schools don't.
I'm just getting quite an education in public schools and churches today.
As if you didn't belong to either of those two.
But not in this capacity.
All right.
If you told me, I don't know. If you told me that my school had a washing machine, I'd be shocked.
Moving on. Christmas morning, Buddy's all tied up in ribbon and paper because Mom has decided, okay, we're gonna let you keep the dog. That's literally the only reason why they centered this movie around Christmas time. It was for this scene and this scene alone. It could have been a birthday, but, Christmas because Christmas.
This is one of the things that I bump on the most. You have time-stamped a very cold time of the year in the Pacific Northwest, and it is well established that she didn't want Buddy in the house until, this big moment that we have been building towards. So you've had him out in the cold, November, December. He didn't even have a dog house. Not that would have been okay. He's in a refrigerator box. And okay, Josh put a couple of blankets down and stuff. And granted, Buddy has been sneaking into the house the whole time. It takes me out of it. It takes me out of the whole movie, because all I'm thinking about is that this is borderline abuse because it is too cold to have the dog outside for that. And story-wise, what I'm bumping on the most here is that you have reduced this woman to the trope of a 90s mom, and we had so much opportunity to really deepen this character because we've established, all right, she's a widow. She's obviously dealing with a lot in her own right. She relocates. She's got to work 2 jobs, which is revealed on a phone call with her mother. Almost every time we've seen her, if she's not going out to get the papers, she's in some sort of chaos and like some fire that she's putting out over the phone. And it's not even most of the time like work related. It's just chaos for chaos sake. What really would have bolstered this and given her a lot more to dive into as a character is if they let it breathe, where she said that, you know, she's bargaining with Josh about keeping the dog. And she's like, well, she won't give him more than 2 weeks. And if they don't find the owner, he's not going to be allowed to keep him. This was before Christmas. She would take the dog to the pound. They could have leaned into this so much more by letting it be about protecting Josh and making sure that Josh doesn't get too attached because she knows that somebody could be out there looking for this dog, which is not exactly what happens. Nobody's looking for Buddy, but somebody else does have a stake to claim when it comes to Buddy. And because they lean too much into, I don't have time for a dog, we can't, your younger sister, I'm too busy, you know, whatever excuse it was, it just would have been a lot stronger if this had come from a place of love and caring and protection. And all of that is glossed over with the tropiness of, we can't have a dog in this house.
Yeah, well, like, instead of just being on the phone with grandma all the time, she could have been having coffee with grandma. Grandma could have been at the house, and
Exactly.
it could have been grandma going, just look at how happy the dog makes him. And she goes, but if somebody comes and takes the dog from him, it's just more loss he gets to experience, and I can't have that. It's not hard to figure this out, but to your point, you know, trope.
Well, but that's also budget. Let's keep in mind this was an indie film, so that's one less character that you have to cast, one less actor that you have to pay with speaking lines.
She could also just be having this conversation over the phone, and Josh overhears it.
There you go.
It's an easy fix. Anyway, move on.
Yeah, for so many seeds that are planted and then they circle things back around, like that also would have been a good part of Josh's character arc, because he's not even thinking that anybody else is going to come. I mean, I love the bit where he's hanging signs and then Buddy pulls them down.
Yeah.
It's so cute. But like, it would have been nice as he's starting to settle in, if that's been this looming sense of dread with him that somebody actually might come and take this dog away. And I would buy that from his character because he is so mature. I think the reality of it is when you're a kid and you fall in love with a pet, like you're never going to think that somebody else, you know, even though it is a stray dog, you're never going to think that somebody else is going to come back. It's finders keepers, but also, you know, he's part of the family now. You're just not focusing on it.
So now we get this moment where they come back from break. 2 of the players have moved away, which, you know, happens at a moment's notice. They definitely don't know that they're moving out of the country because they're moving to Canada, as we find out. It's definitely a last-minute decision. So it opens up 2 spots on the team, and Josh gets an offer to try out. And as it turns out, it was not from the coach. It was from Art, who put the invitation in the locker. I think it's a great moment for Art. And it's also a great moment for Josh because Josh is able to sort of silence his doubters. And the coach does put him on the team because now that Josh has Buddy, he's not grieving so much anymore. He's been in this school for at least a month or two. You know, he's starting to come out of his shell. It's a good moment for all of them.
For everybody except Coach, I would argue, because he was willing enough to extend the olive branch to Josh of, you know, if you're not ready to try out, you can still be a part of this team. So now not wanting him to try out just feels completely unmotivated. We needed some, and this is where I feel like something may have gotten cut out. We needed something where the coach turns and now he's an abusive person all of a sudden. Like, we needed something where I don't want to wash. He's got to have lines like Happy Scrappy almost, where I don't want to wash these brats' clothes. This isn't my responsibility. And that's why he pawns it off on Josh and allowed him to be a part of it, because he's giving him all the tasks that he doesn't want to do. We never get that. And we think that he's a good guy, which obviously is a bait and switch, but this heel turn is so unmotivated.
Well, that's the big problem, right? You have this moment where Buddy shows up at the game and chaos ensues. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. Buddy makes a shot. Everybody goes wild. Let's make him the mascot. And you have this moment of like, whoa, 90s, whoa. And then it turns in a scene where the coach is abusing Tommy. He's flinging basketballs at his head as hard as he can because he's mad that he had turnovers. And he's verbally abusing him. And all of this happens because Buddy leads us to them. So it's just like, to your point, it's this bizarre heel turn. I don't dislike it because I actually think it's a really good bait and switch. And it obviously opens the door for Art becoming the coach. But yes, it comes off as unmotivated. Now, maybe that makes Coach a really good villain, but without having any sort of context, it's just a little jarring.
Agreed. It's also a little bit unmotivated for Tommy, because it's nice to see that one of the kids on the team finally stands up to Larry and extends the olive branch to Josh, like, oh, why not let him try out? That came a little out of left field, but it's even more jarring coming from Tommy's perspective. Why wouldn't you want to protect somebody from the abusive coach? Wouldn't you really want to be a friend to him and say, hey, maybe this isn't what you want it to be? And that's like Tommy's cry for help. I mean, I do love that we get it through Bud, and Bud was able to recognize that, but like this whole thing is very messy. But
it gets Art in the door, and I love the lesson that he starts to teach these kids about instincts and trust and team play, which ultimately we know is going to foil Larry down the line. But it doesn't mean that it isn't a great lesson to be learned in sports in general and in life.
That's exactly what it is, right? It's why he's such a great character. He's not just going to teach them about the sport itself and the mechanics of it. He's going to teach them sportsmanship and how that applies to the bigger picture. I love this practice with the invisible ball.
Yes.
And again, this is where if you take the indie film out of it, this is again where I thought there were maybe supposed to be spirits playing the sport with them.
What is wrong with you? Let's fast forward to the end of the movie, because that's essentially what happens now. Like, all of this, like, I can't believe we're sitting here nearly an hour later talking about the film and we're not at the end of the movie. I thought for sure we were going to be done with this conversation by now. And you know what? We still might be, because the craziest thing about this movie, and this may give some levity to your theory that Disney hacked a lot of it up to get it down to 90 minutes, you spend more than 3/4 of the movie getting to the midway point of the movie. Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, get to the end.
There's a lot of montages.
Which is not uncommon for sports films, but like, they really put this movie in fast forward. You lose 15 minutes of screen time in 3 minutes.
Exactly. What I really like is that Arthur doesn't wait until the court scene to reveal himself. I love that he autographs the card for Josh. I love that they've had like that secret relationship the whole time. And that's also what motivates Josh to break Buddy out, is because, you know, he wants to play with the heart, but he knows that Buddy is a big part of that. So, you know, you have another 90s calamity of a breakout scene. Again, this is where the happy, scrappy character is so elevated, because he's on the phone turning down a Budweiser commercial because of the ethics of having a dog in a beer commercial. And then they give you have to really listen to it. And I'm wondering how much of this was improv, because then he switches after he learns how much money it's going to be. And just that's a real skill. That this is where my focus is, because all they're doing is buying time for Josh to sneak in and break Buddy out. What I really was not expecting, though, was for Josh to set him free, because he realizes that with all the notoriety Buddy has gotten, John's just going to keep coming back. And keeping him at the house is no longer an option, because he's already been there. He already has just shown up. He's already tracked him down. Like, they're never going to leave him alone. And you can't even get a restraining order in this type of a situation, because he has the proper paperwork. That's what I loved about it. When he comes for the claim, he came with receipts.
He had the papers.
Mom can't argue any of this.
Right.
It's just kind of an I told you so moment.
It's an ironclad thing, right? Like, it's his dog, so he has the right to it. That whole thing is really well done. And to your point, to me, Buddy being taken away, like, as cliche as it is, that would have been enough. And maybe Buddy has to break himself out to get to the game. Where this movie turns itself on its head is that Josh takes him on the water taxi to set him free. And I remember watching this as a kid, the one other time I watched this movie, and being really upset, but understanding from a child's perspective, like, the best way to protect him is to let him go, is to take him to a place where they can't be abused anymore. I mean, you see this happen in movies all of the time, right? But what killed me as a kid, and I remember I turned the movie off, and I went back and I finished watching it later because I was so upset by it. When he goes, "You want to play, boy?" And he takes the ball out. Like, now here's the thing. It's such a horrible thing to do, because as somebody that grew up with pets, and obviously we have one now, when they want to play and you see the joy that it brings them, it's such a break in their trust to do that to them.
Yep.
But on the other hand, because and it was so, like, I remember, like, almost crying as a kid and having to turn the movie off and going back to watch it later. And if I'm not going to lie to you, when I watched this again the other day, I had tears in my eyes when he did it again, because I remembered, because I forgot this scene existed.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember thinking, oh, it was a really heavy movie. I remember the abuse. I remember all of that. I forgot about this. And I went right back to being, 12 years old, knowing the unfortunate future that the animal actor had. And I don't even think this was the same dog, by the way, in this particular scene. But I just remember thinking, like, oh man, this is a lot. And it's so forgivable, though, because as sad as it is, and as it's really a leap for Josh is doing the most selfless thing possible. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about Michael Jeter and the performance that he gave, right? And how a less polished talent, it would just come off as silly. However, Kevin Zegers is so heartbreakingly convincing when he does this. He is so good in this scene that it's almost forgivable that he does it. I'm very conflicted with this scene. Part of me wants to be really mad at Josh, but part of me gets it from his perspective, Because you're right, you can't just take him anywhere. He's got too much notoriety. And because it's just so well performed from the actor, like, it seems like a leap, but I understand why they jumped to this point, because the performance is just so good.
This was probably even harder to watch than the opening scene with the dog carrier. Like, there's less peril, but this is so much more heartbreaking. I mean, I will say, I love that we are inserting the message of, if you love something, let it go, into the kids' movie. I think that's a really important lesson, and it was smart to spotlight it in this way. And just such an add and so much more depth, as opposed to Buddy just escapes and goes to the game. But to your point, it's exactly what you said. That was my exact note, the breaking of the trust. It's hard enough to see Josh, fully break down and say, I don't want you anymore, because the dog doesn't understand that.
And he doesn't actually mean it.
Of course not. Of course not. He thinks it's like reverse psychology. He thinks this will just make Buddy walk away. But that's it. Even though you're saying these things, and even though there is a negative connotation, like, we kind of used to play this game with Walt all the time. Not game, but they don't understand words. They understand tone. And if you need to discipline the dog, you could be saying anything, but if it's in a strict tone, they will listen to you. We used to say all the time, because we never wanted to say like horrible words to Walt, and we don't. We would go pork fried rice when
he was see his reaction just now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sweet boy. I'm sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. You're a good boy. But that's it. We could have just been saying anything.
Yeah.
And they will understand tone. And that's what's happening here, is that Buddy is sitting. He knows that Josh isn't happy with him right now, but he doesn't understand what he needs to do. So now Josh has to pull out the last resort, because Buddy is otherwise just going to follow him. And to use what he loves against him in this way, it's exactly as you said, it's breaking trust. And Buddy's so happy because he thinks they're just playing, and it's horrible. And even more horrible still, the boat cab operator, like, you just watch this whole thing happen.
Well, you were assuming he can see it.
He can. He's standing on the bed with Josh.
But they're in the middle of a field. He doesn't know. I mean, yes, he knows he's not coming back with the dog. This is a film about a dog that plays basketball. Why are you overanalyzing the water taxi captain?
You brought the kid with the dog to this island. You see him leave the island without the dog. Like, put the two and two together. Leave him there again in the cold. Like, we're not that far past Christmas now. And you're just going to leave the dog there, and then you see the dog jump in the water and you do nothing?
I'm like that. I'm happy that that's what you clung to. All the things. The guy making $6.80 an hour in 1997 who couldn't give a crap less about most things in his life. The fact that he wasn't the voice of reason here.
You want to know what else that I bump on? I got another one. So, we're back at the game. Buddy finds his way back to Josh. It's this, heartwarming reunion. Nobody at that game knows that Josh just dog-napped and then abandoned him.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're just happy they got their mascot back. And of course, there's nothing in the rule book that says a dog can't play basketball.
Oh my God.
Because why would that exact verbiage be in a rule book?
This scene is one of the most 90s things that has ever happened, because you have Larry's dad and his new coach scoffing at the idea of a dog that can play basketball, and then they sarcastically say, "Put him in."
Right. Like, and this is where, again, the tone confuses me.
Yes.
Like, this is where the movie, for the umpteenth time, doesn't really know what it wants to be. But oddly enough, it doesn't know what it is, but it does all of those individual packages really well.
Yeah.
If this was a product of its time and just a zany 90s movie, it handles that well. If this is supposed to be a tearjerker, it handles it well. If this is supposed to be a movie about grief, it handles it well. That's the really confusing thing, is it doesn't know what it is, but the parts are all really good. The sum might not always work, but the parts are working well.
Yeah. That was pretty much my final assessment, because it does subvert your expectations one more time here. It's not just that Buddy comes in, they win the game, and strength in numbers, the crowd says to Norm, just let him keep the dog. He's our mascot, blah, 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 blah. Now we got to go to a court scene. I like that this movie becomes self-aware through the judge here.
It's great.
And he's got such a great line when Art shows up, because here's the thing. Just to lend to the zaniness, or to bring us back to that tone of the movie, Norm shows up in court representing himself, dressed fully as Happy Scrappy. I guess because he thinks that it will make Buddy choose him because he's dressed the part. Sure. And the judge who can't hear well because he has to have everything translated to him as to what's going on. Yet he continues to bang the gavel even though he can't hear. And he says, I want to take this seriously. I don't want this to turn into a circus. And then, that's the timing of it, when Norm walks in fully dressed. But then when Arthur comes to save the day, he goes, who are you, Barnum or Bailey? I die every single time I watch it. It's a great line. The delivery is spot on. It's hilarious.
And when it seems like the courtroom and the whole court case, when it seems like it should just be unnecessary, the movie bulletproofs itself again, because Norm takes the newspaper out and Buddy starts making his way to Norm, because what we've established is that if Buddy doesn't listen to Norm, Buddy gets the newspaper, right?
Yeah.
So he starts making his way to him, and it's also why Buddy kept hiding the newspapers.
It was such a great plan. See, that's something with the mom character where it was worth glossing over, because you think that this is just about, this is why we can't have a dog. He's taking my newspaper. No, it's because he's traumatized by them.
Right. And that moment of, I'm going to shred this and shred myself of you and get us to the happy ending, cliched as it was, it ended up being very necessary.
Yeah, I mean, this scene drags out a little bit for the sake of building that tension, which works for the movie. But the reality of it is that the dog is never going to go near an abusive person again.
No.
He would have run to Josh in 9 seconds if this was real life. But, we got to raise the stakes a little bit and really, lean into Buddy's choice here. But, it's, all things considered, the happy ending that the Fram family deserves.
Let's talk about our cast here, starting with Kevin Zegers as Josh Fram. This kid is unbelievable in this film. I mean, he's a scene stealer. He handles the drama better than he handles the comedy, quite honestly. And I think for a child actor, that says a lot. A less accomplished actor, I don't think, could have handled the subject matter. I don't think he could have carried the weight of it. He was absolutely perfect casting.
He really was. He had a maturity well beyond his years. And I'm glad that got recognized, because Buddy did win a Kids' Choice Award for his performance. But I'm glad that didn't overshadow how good Kevin really is in this movie. He won a Young Artist Award in 1998 for Best Performance in a Feature Film, a leading young actor. And then he also won a Young Star Award that same year, but by a young actor in a comedy film, which is really interesting that that's what the film is considered. But what you're winning for isn't your comedic timing. It's clearly because you've got the chops here.
Yeah. And you needed him to match against Michael Jeter, who plays Norm. I've already said what I had to say about Michael Jeter. I don't need to say anything else. He's phenomenal.
He absolutely is. This is one of those roles where, I mean, like, it was a banger year for movies. You're talking about 1997, so Titanic. But I think in any other year, this is one of those sneaky roles that gets nominated for like a supporting actor Academy Award because he did so much with so little and steals every single scene.
Well, that's the thing, because he doesn't have a lot of screen time either.
No. And half of it he's in makeup.
Right. Wendy McKenna plays Jackie Fram.
Sister Mary Roberts.
And could have been anybody.
What's really funny is...
No offense to her, because, yeah, she's great in Sister Act, but, I mean, for this particular role, this could have literally been anybody.
Michael Jeter also in Sister Act, which is really fun that they were paired together again. But you're right, like, it's the way the character's written. She is just mom 90s trope. They didn't give her anything to do. I mean, the court scene she's really great in. And what I always loved about her in Sister Act is she does have this like warmth about her, and I think that comes through here, but you could have made this character so much deeper, and she's a plot device.
And then Bill Cobbs plays Art Cheney. I mean, we've talked about him on the show in the past, and he's fantastic. I might actually like him more in this than I do in Oz the Great and Powerful. I mean, and he's really good in Night at the Museum. This might be my favorite role of his, believe it or not. I think that the chemistry that he has with Kevin Zegers specifically is just outstanding.
It really, really is. I mean, he has 196 credits to his name. He has been a working actor for most of his life. And it's an episode of TV every single time. But when he got those film roles, he's just a scene stealer in every single one. He brings such a warmth and such a depth, and just such a he's just a presence. He's got that magnetic presence, and I absolutely love him in this. I love just the whole character. The idea that he was a pro ball star. And not really that he hung up his hat, but he just recognized it as, you know, that's not my life anymore. But I love, to your point too, when you were talking about the theme of abandonment, he sort of finds his way back to himself in this as well.
Yeah. Final thoughts on Air Bud. I'm going to go first. You know, this was a movie that I watched once and never again because I just found it to be a very difficult watch. As I sit here and I watch it now, it's still a very difficult watch. And it's still a very confusing movie in regards to its tone and at times its pace. But by no means is this a bad movie. It's not a bad film. I think the performances are what elevate the movie. I think any lesser talent, meaning if you take any of the three big ones out of here, whether it be Bill Cobbs, Michael Jeter, or Kevin Zegers, I think if you take one of them out of the role and recast it with somebody else, I think the entire movie fails. I think because of them, they make the film what it is. As I said before, this is one of those rare things where the parts are better than the sum. The parts are all nailed. The sum might not make all that much sense. Does it have a lot of rewatchability? For me, no. Does that mean I'm not ever going to rewatch it again? No. Do I think it's going to be another 28 years before I rewatch it? That's debatable. Probably not 28 years, but I'm certainly not going back to watch it next week. If you've not seen it, it's worth a watch. It is a product of its time, but it's an elevated version, but it also does have some issues that could have been cleaned up, and I think that had this been a proper Disney film, I think a lot of those... Well, no, you know what? I can't even say that. Had it been a proper Disney film, this might have just been the big green with basketball. So maybe it would have had nothing redeeming about it.
And that's actually a perfect segue for my final thoughts, because for me, this is a terrible comedy, but it's an excellent drama. I agree with you on the parts being better than the whole. But I think if you strip away that zany 90s comedy, which, by the way, that was something that I bumped on this entire time too. This was 1997, but it felt like 93, 94, 95. And that also, I think, goes with it being an indie film. It was probably shot earlier on, but by the time they shopped it around, it was a little late to the party with these animal movie trends. But again, it was late to the animal movie comedy party. Otherwise, I think it's pretty timeless as far as the drama goes.
Yes.
It's a great story. And the performances are all incredible. It just is very difficult to watch. Is it Old Yeller? No. But if you are a dog lover and an animal person, there are scenes that are just going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And maybe that's just me, because as I sit here, I've done this entire review from the floor so that my dog is comfortable up on the couch. So I might be a little hypersensitive to some of the scenes and some of the situations that they put the animal actor in that I'm not terribly happy with. But there are parts of this that are so good, I would watch it again. Probably not very often, but I will go back to it, even though there are parts that I really just don't like.
We are interested in knowing what you have to say about Air Bud. You can let us know on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, or you can send us an email, monoreelradio@gmail.com. News of the week is coming up, but first, a quick break. If you've dreamed of setting sail with the Disney fleet, Jackie will help you from booking to Bon Voyage. She will not only assist you with your cruise package, but also help with your stateroom selection, pre- and post-cruise accommodations, ground transportation, onboard activity reservations, and port excursions. Whether you are traveling as a couple, with a family, a large group, or even solo, Jackie will customize the perfect cruise itinerary for you. Besides Disney, some of our favorite vacations have been cruises, and we have personally sailed aboard the Norwegian Gem, the Norwegian Jewel, and Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. Jackie is certified with both of these cruise lines as well, and can book your sailings with the same attention to detail and knowledge that she demonstrates when it comes to any Disney destination. Visit monoreelradio.com/travel to set sail.
Hey guys, my name is Mike. I listen to Jackie and Sean's podcast every week on my commute into work. So I reached out to Jackie, and she helped me put together the perfect getaway. I did a 4-night Disney cruise ship, and she was able to answer every question that I threw at her. She put together the perfect dates and an insurance plan that made the whole experience stress-free. She was able to help me with little tips and tricks, like you can get a Mickey Mouse bar delivered to you any time of the day. And I think that was a mistake, because now I put about 10-15 pounds on. I'll definitely be using Jackie again in the future. Thanks for everything.
Disney Cruise Line, specifically for the Disney Adventure, had some exciting news this week. I didn't know that ships had godparents, and apparently they do.
Yes, you did.
Then I forgot about it because
you knew
that
Meghan Trainor was the godmother of the Utopia.
Well,
we talked about this.
Well, then it must not be an important part of my life, specifically Meghan Trainor in general, and that's why I forgot about it. Robert Downey Jr. has been named the godfather of the new Disney Adventure.
So when I saw that, I thought, okay, cool. We're putting our Disney legends to use here. But what I was really not expecting was today's announcement, the Iron Cycle. It's basically the structure, not as large, obviously. It looks like the Tron light cycle as far as the bike seat sitting on top of the track, but it is on the ship and partially dangling off the ship. It looks awesome. This is one of these things that makes me wish I was more of a roller coaster person, because it just looks so stinking cool.
Well, and it all of a sudden is less jarring that RDJ got picked for this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Walt Disney World specifically. this is exciting news that got announced. Now through March 11th of 2026, if you are a Disney Visa card holder that has a non-discounted 4-day, 4-night, or longer Walt Disney travel package over at select resorts, you get a free dining plan.
You also have to have the park hopper. So basically, week-long vacation, your typical week-long vacation, day in each park, or you hop around for a couple of days, and Disney Visa card holders will get a free dining plan. That's it's awfully generous.
It is, right? Like, I feel like that's a fairly good deal. I feel like that's a break-even deal.
It's a big value to place on a package like that.
For sure.
And it's nice to see that they're doing more with the cardholder perks.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Monoreel Radio will always be free, but there are many ways that you can support the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join the conversation on social media at Monoreel Radio on all major platforms. Share your favorite episodes with family and friends who may enjoy them. And of course, book your next trip with Jackie. Links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. We all get one story. Make yours a magical one.
On behalf of Monoreel Radio, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of.